How do you feel about the crypto market right now? Are you fearful? Greedy? Maybe you're somewhere in between. You've probably noticed that these emotions play a role in your investment decisions. Even though you know technical and fundamental analysis is important, oftentimes when the rubber hits the road, it's your emotions behind the wheel. This is especially true in cryptocurrency, where emotions run high 24/7 as the market moves. This creates a lot of price volatility, which can be stressful, but also presents an opportunity to make money if you can understand the emotions of others and master your own. Today, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about sentiment analysis. I'll explain what it is, how it works, I'll examine a few free sentiment analysis indicators and tools, and how you can use them to potentially predict the next pump or dump for your favorite cryptos. I know emotions are running high, but before we head on, there are some terms and conditions with which you need to comply. By watching this video, you agree that nothing you hear or see is financial or investment advice. That's because I'm not licensed to do that, so it wouldn't be right. Everything here is just for laughs and learning. Talk to your financial advisor if you need help with earning. If you're new here, an introduction is in order. My name is Guy and I am a crypto hoarder. My addiction compels me to make the highest quality crypto content on the tube. Coins, tokens, tutorials, news, and market moves. I do it for the knowledge and not just the views. If you're as crypto obsessed as I am, subscribe to the channel and ping that notification bell as fast as you can. Take note of the timestamps I've sprinkled down below. You can use them to skip ahead if you see any topics you already know. I recommend watching the whole way through so that this video gets found by other people like you. And with that out of the way, let's see what sentiment analysis is and why it's been all the rage. Sentiment analysis has technically been around as long as written language, but it wasn't until the 1950s that it became an official topic of study in the field of linguistics. Most of the research back then involved trying to understand how meaningful sentences are formed and how this information could be used to improve machine translation. This image shows the number of research papers about sentiment analysis published between 1950 and 2015. As you can see, something changed in the early 2000s. This change was the rise of social media, which began with MySpace in 2003. Not surprisingly, a lot of content being generated by users on social media back then had a political bent. This kind of information is extremely valuable to a politician or political group looking to appeal to the masses in their election campaigns. The only problem is that it's impossible to read every single post coming from every single user to figure out what's hot and what's not with potential voters. So to solve this problem, politicians started using sentiment analysis on publicly available social media posts to see which way the wind was blowing on certain topics. The first time social media sentiment analysis was used in a political campaign was during the 2008 presidential election. Sentiment analysis is believed to have played a big role in Barack Obama's win. By that time, other industries had picked up on the promise of sentiment analysis, specifically online retailers like Amazon, which started becoming popular in 2005. Amazon was the first online business to allow customers to leave reviews, and in its early days, Jeff Bezos himself would personally respond to their feedback. As Amazon grew, Jeff was replaced by an ever larger team of customer service staff, followed by a dedicated team of customer support representatives, which eventually also became over-encumbered by customer inquiries. Naturally, the solution was sentiment analysis. Rather than read every single comment, question, or concern about a product or service, Amazon used sentiment analysis tools to classify everything automatically according to urgency and content. At that point, a human could be brought in to repair the damage or respond to the comment. Sentiment analysis inevitably spilled over into social media marketing, where it's used to assess things like brand perception, the effectiveness of marketing campaigns, and consumer preference. By 2010, sentiment analysis had become a cornerstone of market analysis as well. Now, the use of sentiment analysis in trading and investing has increased as sentiment analysis technologies become more advanced and accurate. So, what exactly is sentiment analysis and how does it work? In a sentence, sentiment analysis involves analyzing a text to determine whether it is positive, negative, or neutral. This is done by assigning a score to each word depending on how negative or positive it is, and then adding all those scores together to see what the overall sentiment of the text is. Typically, this score ranges between -1 and +1, with -1 being very negative sentiment and +1 being very positive sentiment. Now, I know it's technically a bit more complicated than this, but let's roll with it. Here's a simple example of how this works. A few weeks back, I posted a video with less than optimal audio quality. By the time I noticed, it was too late to take it down, so I left it up. Now, as you can imagine, I got a few comments from people pointing out that the audio in that video, which shall not be named, was a bit spotty. Now, suppose I wanted to use sentiment analysis to see just how much my audio issue was bothering my viewers without having to read through every single comment. What I would do is create a sentiment analysis tool that looks at every comment which mentions the word audio or sound, give it a sentiment score, and add them all together to see what the average sentiment is. Let's say one of these comments was, "This video is awesome, but the audio could be better." This comment would be picked up by the sentiment analysis tool because it mentions audio. The next thing the sentiment analysis tool would do is eliminate every word or phrase that doesn't carry an emotional weight. So, after doing that, the only thing left is awesome and could be better. To identify emotional words and assign them a positive or negative sentiment score, most sentiment analysis tools will reference something called a lexicon. This is basically a huge database of words and phrases that were manually coded as positive or negative on a -1 to +1 scale by a human. For the sake of simplicity, let's say the word awesome has a sentiment score of +1, and the phrase could be better has a sentiment score of -0.25. Now, I reckon that's reasonable because the word awesome is up there with other words like fantastic and phenomenal, whereas the phrase could be better isn't all the way down there with it's total shit, for example. Anyways, the sentiment score for this comment would be +0.75. Now, let's say there were just two other comments which mentioned audio or sound with sentiment scores of -0.5 and +0.75. The total sentiment score for all audio-related comments would be +1, which is positive. If this is not far off from the sentiment I typically find in the comments section of my other videos, this means that the audio issue was probably not that big of a deal. Now, if I wanted to go one step further, I could give additional weight to the comments with more likes to get an even clearer view of the audio complaints in the comments section. But let's not go there. If you're wondering why sentiment analysis is so important for crypto trading, consider this. What ultimately moves the price of a crypto up or down is how investors feel about it. Put differently, the emotion comes first and the reaction comes second. What this means is that if you can detect the emotions of investors in advance with sentiment analysis on, say, social media platforms like Twitter and Reddit, you could theoretically predict the price action of any cryptocurrency. There is even research to back this up, but it comes with a few caveats that I will explain later on. As you might have guessed, sentiment analysis is used by most smart money, specifically hedge funds. Some believe this is why they always seem to be one step ahead of the crypto market. Usually, the sentiment analysis tools institutional investors use cost thousands, if not millions of dollars per year, which is not something most of us can afford. Thankfully, there's no shortage of free sentiment analysis indicators out there, and when used correctly, they can be almost as effective as the most expensive sentiment analysis indicators money can buy.